Hello, Brady Bunch. Welcome to my channel. For any of my returning viewers, welcome. For my new subscribers, welcome. Today, we will be discussing the art of parting. Parting seems to still be a struggle for me, even though I have been doing it for many years. I think what comes into play is you have to consider the size of your client's head, as well as how much hair that you actually need to work with. Also, understanding what type of style your client is seeking. If you're seeking bigger braids, of course, you want to start making bigger parts. However, if you're seeking smaller braids, then yeah, you want to use smaller parts for that as well. So what I would typically do, we'll call her Candace, meet our model Candace. What I typically do with my client is, first I want to make sure that their hair is nice and healthy. Candace does have a nice growing pattern here. Her hair is nice and healthy. Everything is very detangled, shall I say. This is a nice grade of hair for this to be a practice doll, is what I'm basically saying. But another thing is to, if you have the expenses to do so, would be to get you a practice mannequin as well. Or if you have kids or even someone in your own home, sisters, cousins, brothers, nephews, nieces, anybody can actually help you learn and master this process, as well as doing it on yourself. I know when I first started doing it, I was doing it by being in the mirror and just parting the front of my hair into 4 sections. So by doing this, it helped me line up where I wanted my parts to be and to make sure that they were straight. So what I was actually doing was I was looking at my eyebrows and where they end, and I would take my comb and try to trace that same pattern to make sure that that box stayed the same until I got it correctly. So what you basically want to do is, I myself can't work on dry hair. I know there's a lot of other stylists who prefer to braid, part, any type of hair stimulation. They prefer to work on dry hair. Me, myself, I can't do that. My hands are already dry, as you can tell, so there is no need for me to try to work on some dry hair. It just won't work for me. So what I like to do is, after I've inspected my client's hair, I do take my handy dandy spray bottle, which I got this bottle on Amazon, maybe a 3-pack for like $5. But I take my handy dandy bottle and just give my client a little moisture, which makes the hair a little bit easier to work with. So for this tutorial, what I'm actually using is, like I just showed you, the bottle. I have 2 combs here, as you notice. One actually has the tooth a little bit wider, which is very useful when parting. I know a lot of people also use this end of the rat tail comb. Me, myself, personally, I tend to use this part because, to be honest, I'm a little heavy-handed and I actually don't want to stick my client. I also have this comb as well, and I use this comb to just make sure everything stays into place. And sometimes you always want to make sure that you have a comb near, or a brush, whatever is your method. But see, Candace already had her hair washed and conditioned and blow dried, so we don't have any tangles that we need to work with. Parting. Oh, I didn't even finish telling you the tools. I started combing Candace hair. I'm trying to jump right into the video. The other tools that I have here would be the hair clips. I just use these to basically hold hair into place. Nothing major. You can get smaller hair clips, colorful hair clips. It doesn't really matter. You don't even need to use hair clips. You can also use a ponytail holder or a rubber band to hold the section of hair that you're actually not currently dealing with. One second, let me close this door. I can hear the fan from the vent going off and it was driving me insane. The other thing that I use on my client's head is Blue Magic. This is actually very hard to find in my area, so I do order the bottles that I use from Amazon. This is a 12-ounce bottle. This 12-ounce bottle cost me $9.97, which this bottle right here can last, depending on how many heads that I do, maybe a full month. My go-to product, I know a lot of people do use braiding gel, edge control, braid grease, gel in general when they're braiding hair. A lot of different types of gel have too much water in them, and so when I'm using them, it tends to make the hair slip out of my hands. But then there's the other kind of braiding gel that tend to make my hands dry, and I need to have some type of moisture while I'm braiding, as well as locking in moisture to my client's hair. So what I use and my go-to, and I've been using it for a few months now, and since I started doing that, I do notice more smoothness in my client's hair. This is the Pure Neat Braid Conditioning Shiny Gel. As you can see with this gel, there is no alcohol, which means there's no drying out your hair while applying the product. And that's why I say I like this product, because it doesn't really dry out the hair. It moisturizes your natural hair while wearing the protective style that you're going for. This I also found on Amazon, but I also see this at my local beauty supply. It's actually $1 cheaper on Amazon. Plus, I'm an Amazon freak, so I order Amazon like all the freaking time. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time here. So what I first identified when I first started parting was I just part my client's hair like that. And I know I need to get a new light, so I do apologize, you guys. And I really didn't care, didn't have no rhyme or reason. And it took me a while to finally realize that you got to take your time. That is the main thing that you need to focus on when parting, is taking your time. If you don't take your time, you're not going to get the style that you're actually desiring. So let me clip this here on top. And as you can see, I just rushed and parted that. And this happens to a lot of us often. However, in order to make your part neat, you need to take time. And I also put a little edge control on my wristlet, which I use when braiding. So like I said, I use this part of the comb to part so that I can make sure that I have that accurate braid. So I'm going in and parting Candace here. And as you can see, with me taking my time parting Candace, you see how neat that part comes across. Now you can even clean this up by applying a little of the braid gel right across your part there. And I'm gonna use this lightly on Candace because I actually just washed her hair. But to clean up that part, that's typically how I do it. I just apply some of the braid gel to that section until I get it to my consistency. And as you see, I'm going back across it again after I applied the braid gel. And as you can see, this part here, this gives me a guide of where I'm actually at. So my part is a lot much more neater. So you just want to make sure you take your time, and there's no method or number of times that you have to go back and be precise on how you part the hair. The main takeaway from that would be just take your time. Time and repetition. That's the best way to do it. For more videos like this, and to get more into depth of different ways that you can part the hair to make creative styles, please like, share. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you guys on the next video. Bye.